In the borderlands of Pakistan and Afghanistan, there are growing protests over America's covert operation of targeted killings. Despite the apparent success in attacking suspected terrorists, there's international unease over the secrecy surrounding the Obama administration's expanding drones campaign. Far from stepping back, the US is commissioning more hunter-killer drones and is racing to train crews. The weapons are poised to become the biggest combat system in America's Air Force. Lateline has been granted rare access to the US military's primary training base in New Mexico. North America correspondent Craig McMurtry has our report.
Drones have not caused a huge number of civilian casualties. They have been very precise, precision strikes against Al-Qaeda. We are very careful in terms of how it's been applied.
Mark that location. You can zoom out one field of view, just so we have some.
In the Chihuahuan Desert, near the US-Mexico border, highways are long and dead straight. Perfect for training.
Do you want me to stay on this vehicle? Since he's moving and leaving the area, you can continue on.
Cars roll by, their drivers blissfully unaware that they're being tracked from above by a remotely piloted Air Force drone.
So how good is that camera?
It's I can't get into very much good specifics, but it's fairly well. It does fairly good. We could be flying over the top of us, and if we had a picture, we could identify you and me if we were right over the top of us.
In fact, the high-resolution cameras are said to be capable of reading a number plate 3 kilometres away. We've been allowed in for a rare look inside the US military's primary drone training program at Holloman Air Base. But only training. Aside from Commander Colonel Ken Johnson, full names and mission details are off limits.
How long can it stay up for?
Duration aloft is about 16 hours.
16 hours?
Yeah, this thing can carry this load and be there for 16 hours.
10 years ago, the US military had only a few dozen remotely piloted aircraft. Now, there are thousands. Most are unarmed and are used for reconnaissance. But there are also hundreds of hunter-killer drones, the much larger, ominously named Predators and Reapers, carrying Hellfire missiles.
2 on each side, and then we carry 2 500-pound class weapons on.
And this is laser guided.
This is a laser guided, yeah. And this is just a mock-up.
And this is more weaponry than, say, the Predator.
Yeah, the Predator can carry 2, 1 on each side of the Hellfires. That's about it.
Unlike other areas of US defence spending, the drone budget is growing. Congress is being asked to spend another $5 billion this year, and the training program at Holloman Air Base is racing to keep up.
The growth that we've had from 2005, where we had maybe 8 or so combat air patrols, to now where there's almost 60 of them Air Force-wide, it's just been insatiable. That's one of the biggest things that surprised me about it.
The growth in demand for US drone crews is so dramatic. Within months, they'll represent the biggest combat weapons system in the US Air Force.
We don't want to get too close so he can hear us. This guy's walking along a quiet street. If you're buzzing him, he may hear you, depending on...
In darkened simulators, dozens of trainee drone crews, pilots and sensor operators learn to cope with a torrent of digital information.
Right, so you have an unidentified piece of equipment on the back of a military-age male. This may warrant further investigation.
Right.
They're trained to spot improvised explosive devices.
So it'd be disturbed earth, vehicles avoiding areas, or people avoiding areas where they normally would be, piles of trash or equipment where you wouldn't expect them to be.
In the past, drone recruits were expected to be rated pilots first. That's no longer the case. And in response to the demand for drone crews, Holloman is fast-tracking their training. The commander says the new program lasts 9 months.
So we want to produce them faster, but we're taking a step back and saying we want to produce a quality crew.
Painstaking hours are spent training crews to verify potential targets, training designed to prevent deadly mistakes, civilian casualties, because deadly mistakes have been made. In recent years, there have been hundreds of armed drone missions, nearly all of them shrouded in secrecy, perhaps because of their success or because after 10 years the US public's grown weary of the human cost of war. There's been no debate in America about the program of targeted killings. And despite criticising the previous administration for its counter-terrorism excesses, so far the Obama White House has ignored international calls for greater transparency. At 6th Reconnaissance Squadron, this rated pilot and instructor can tell me his call sign, which is Pimp, but he's not allowed to tell me his full name.
It's the tip of the spear. The #1 requested asset operationally by the combatant commanders, and they just can't get enough of us. They want more and more of us.
The Air Force captain says far from being detached from the deadly, sometimes brutal consequences of their actions, drone crews are lingering eyewitnesses.
A pointy-nosed fighter will drop his bomb and we'll have to go refuel or RTB, return to base. We can stay there for hours and hours, and we can see what happens after. And a lot of that, what happens after, we gather that as intelligence.
But that also has a personal consequence, doesn't it? Because you see the aftermath.
You see the aftermath, and a lot of the times with the capability of our cameras, you can see below.
The 31-year-old father of 2 can go to war and go home to his family each night. One of the reasons he chose the drone program.
So I have the opportunity to go to work, fly a mission, no matter where it is, do the job, and then I put on a different hat and I come home to my wife and my kids. And I play the role as the happy father or the husband and kind of leave work aside.
The US has a big lead in this technology, but dozens of other countries are racing to catch up, despite warnings from international bodies, including the UN, of the danger of developing a PlayStation mentality to war.
It is important for everybody to understand that this thing is kept on a very tight leash.
This is not a video game. This is life, and we tell our people that it's not a video game, and it's obvious that it's not, because if things go wrong, you don't get hit reset and start over again.
Soon the US Air Force will train more drone crews than fighter and bomber pilots combined. It's war via computer screens and satellite data links. America's drone campaign is expanding, and even its supporters are uncertain about where the technology may lead. Craig McMurtry, Lateline.
You can see part 2 of our special report on drones, the ethical debate around this controversial weapon system, tomorrow night on Lateline. And if you'd like to find out about the use of drones in journalism, you can read a special foreign correspondent story on the ABC News website.